Alright, NET-200. This was Wednesday. (10, 12, 16). This must be about day 13. Week 7. Alright. So we took a look at turned on the assessment for 4 for people to take on their own. We're going to take the pre-assessment for 5 first thing on Friday. We started looking at physical addresses. So this was a physical address in Michael's computer, and initially we matched it up with this IP address. So here was his MAC address, and here was IP address. Logical and physical. And we found this address, and I believe we found it with port 18 on the switch. So we were able to identify it from the switch. And just a note here, here's the network part of the address. That would be this part in this particular configuration, and this is the host part in this configuration. Down here would be the same. Over here would be the host, and here would be the network part of the address. Talk more about that later on. So then we got looking at this, and they said, well, we've got these letters in there, you know, what do those represent? Well, actually it's base 16, so it's hexadecimal, and it has 16 digits to represent that. You know, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F. 16. Base 16. Base 2 has 2 digits. Base 10 has 10 digits. And we're going to talk more about that later on, but that's where the letters come in. Okay, that's where the letters come in. And we were looking at information from the command prompt, especially when we had to get the IP addresses. We got it from the command prompt and did an IP config /all to be able to see the information we want to see in the individual computers. Right here, and then we reviewed the OSI model. So we have up here, we have some type of application that's linked into the application layer, and then we have this movement of the data. Comes from there, like a URL or an email or something, some protocol. How we're going to present the data, it's going to be encrypted or not, create a session, how are we going to transport the data, what's the best path, how's it going to find a path through the network, logical address there. So this would be UDP, TCP. So, and if you remember, we have a segment, packet, and a frame. Here we can put a physical address on it, the data link, and then the physical layer puts the bits out on the medium. And the two major ones we talk about here, Ethernet 802.3 and Wi-Fi 802.11. That's an 11 there. Then we switched networks, and everybody got a 20 address. I switched networks here, and then we worked on ARP-A. They would ping, and they would see how the ARP table would be updated with the relationship between IP and the MAC address, that physical address. And it would create that relationship. And then we talked about that. that the ARP does a broadcast to build an ARP table, and then when the computer sends information out, it can put that MAC address on the packet so the packet can get where it needs to go. Okay, we looked right in the switch here and saw the addresses here. Make that a little brighter. The addresses here that pointed to these addresses that was on the gigabit port, and it showed all of these addresses, right, for all the other rooms and so forth, tied together on that network. Originally that was the network 172.31.0.0. Talk more about that later. And when we switch over to the 20 network, there wasn't as many, okay, because there wasn't as many other computers on that network. Alright, so we need a MAC address tied with the IP address. So when this traffic left, let's say this PC, went out to the internet, and when it came back, this router would match up the MAC and IP, and it put the MAC address back on it, so when it hits this switch, depending on which computer it came from, go back to the correct computer. Main campus, we use Dell.com as an example. So this is just a way to represent it. So if you looked here, that would be 48 bits. Here we're using base 10 to represent an address, but when we convert it to binary, which everything is, you'll see that this is 32 bits. And we'll talk more about that later on. So, Ethernet and Wi-Fi, two very popular ways to connect in at the. So for example, if we're looking here, we have the physical and then the data link, where we have those protocols that allow to take this physical information and then pass it up. And that is it for today.